नमस्कार दोस्तों, दिस इज V4U रेडियो। मैं हूं अनुपम और मैं लेकर आता हूं संवाद। ये सेकंड एपिसोड है। आई एम सो ऑनर्ड कि हाई कमिश्नर ऑफ इंडिया ऑनरेबल श्री संजय कुमार वर्मा जी हैज़ गिवन अस सो मच टाइम, और ज़रूरत भी है जिस तरह की माहौल है और जिस तरह से बायलैटरल टाइज हमारे स्ट्रेंथनिंग चल रही है। इट इज़ इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर मी टू कवर दीज स्मॉल थिंग्स सो दैट द कॉमन मैन नोज व्हाट्स इन इट फॉर देम। संजय जी, आपका दोबारा से स्वागत है V4U रेडियो चैनल पर।
धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका अनुपम जी। एंड आई एम देयर फॉर योर लिसनर्स एंड व्यूअर्स to take the discussions forward and to inform them about what's happening in the India-Canada corridor and what are the issues that we are taking forward and how progressive is our relationship.
आप यकीन मानेंगे कि when a high commissioner of your profile moves within the country from province to province, as much as people watch, people look at your social media post, I really wanted to congratulate your social media team because they keep us up to date with the smallest of the events. You may be meeting some business profiles, you may be recently, like I know you were in Saskatchewan, so such meetings has got a meaning to it and they brings a lot of promise, is forward looking. So हम उसके बारे में बात करेंगे, लेकिन जैसा मैंने अपने सारे दर्शकों से प्रॉमिस किया था, there are almost 2021 threads which connect India and Canada together. और at the high level, people do not see lots happening, and this is a way to really inform them at the ground level how your visits, how your meetings, at the diplomatic level, or you're making some positive changes, which will, of course, strengthen the two countries together. This is the whole objective of Samvaad. I wanted to remind my listeners that yes, I am your representative. Feel free to question your own honorable high commissioner through me. आप लिखे भेजें अगर आपके पास कुछ सवाल हो या कुछ टॉपिक ऐसे हो जो आपको लग रहा है मैं इंक्लूड नहीं कर रहा हूँ। आज के टॉपिक में संजय जी मैं लेकर आया बहुत ही ऐसा टॉपिक which is kind of driving the economy today, which is immigration, and that is kind of connected with tourism as well. और जैसा हमको पता है कि it is certainly feeding the Canadian economy right now. Very very hard to say कि it's sustainable or not, but market sentiment is very bullish, I can tell you. And उसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि businesses को आश्वासन मिलता है, क्रॉस बॉर्डर तो मूवमेंट होता है, बट इन इनर सिटीज में मूवमेंट शुरू हो जाता है। One thing which we have noticed this time, and from Alberta perspective, the entire Alberta is growing. So rural Alberta used to grow in small pockets, just based on my 18 years experience. Whenever there was a shift in economy, Toronto used to grow, and then when Toronto died down, then it picked up Alberta, and Alberta grew in smaller pockets like towns like Calgary, Edmonton, Grand Prairie and stuff like that. But this time, smaller towns, jo people never heard of, Ponoka, for example, very very small town, but it's growing, and so this makes me feel so good because it is kind of not density wise, it is spreading. मैं आपको, of course, I want to throw it back to you. आपसे सुनना ज़्यादा पसंद करेंगे क्योंकि you also have a very very high bird's eye view, as I always say. How is this all immigration meaningful to the two countries?
I will not be able to comment much on how is it helping Canada, but I believe that given the kind of ambition that Canada has to grow its industry and labor market, it will need immigrants in. And that is the overall policy of Canada. There, India has a lot to add, considering that we produce 2.5 million STEM graduates a year, considering that we produce 1.5 million engineers a year. So we are sitting on a very large talent pool, and that talent pool India could afford to export because we are able to use part of them, and part of them can easily be exported to other countries, other friendly countries who need our support in growing their own industry, growing their own labor market, and growing their own economy. So many of the Indians who come as professionals to Canada are actually helping the Canadian economy to grow. They are helping the Canadian industry and innovation segments to go. But at the same time, they are also acting as a bridge between India and Canada, who can further improve India-Canada Connect. So it is working on both levels. On one level, it's only contributing to the Canadian growth and development, but at the other level, it's also building bridges between our two countries. And these bridges are very micro-level bridges, so that they are building bridges in two small segments of the economy, two small segments of culture, two small segments of community, where the government may not be able to reach. Government can give an overall facilitation of such engagements, but may not be an actual actor or implementer in such connects, where these immigrants who come from India to Canada are able to help out.
Sanjay ji, I'll go to the basics, and again, आपको पता है कि there are so many categories people can come and apply and come here. Hundreds of categories. Examples सब जानते हैं, हम जानते हैं students बहुत आते हैं यहाँ पे. We really embrace these students who are coming there. Work permits भी हैं. Permanent residentship तो है ही एक बहुत पुरानी जो एक वो थे. Are we leveraging or first of all, again, and feel free to, maybe there are some things we may not be able to really talk too much, but just you may correct me. So, is there a quota which every year is decided that this much immigrants are going to come in this category, and that's how it is formulated, or a complete number is given that, okay, so we are looking at, say, almost 400,000 people migrate. I mean, if at all we look at the numbers. So is it quota by quota, like is it the category by category there's a quota, or how does it happen? Like how does it all numbers come up?
I believe that at the national level in Canada, yes, they have an idea as to how many engineers do they want to immigrate into Canada, how many plumbers do they want, how many drivers do they want. But these, I would believe, looking at the nature of the market anywhere in the world, that these will be estimation and not actual numbers. As far as India is concerned, no, Canada doesn't give any quota to India. And depending on the merit of those Indians who want to migrate to Canada, they will be granted a visa to come here. But another point that you mentioned earlier on the student, and many a times you'll find that the immigration's first level of entry into Canada happens to be these students. So today when I'm talking to you, we have close to 427,000 Indian nationals as international students in India. Wow. As on today.
Wow.
And that is close to 35% of all international students in Canada. Now, one is immigration, of course, but let's see what they are bringing with them from India. They themselves, their skill sets, whatever they have in India, they are bringing it here to upgrade them probably to better suit the Canadian conditions. But they are also paying international tuition fee to the Canadian economy. And if 427,000, a rough estimate, if I can look at, it is close to $18 billion.
Wow.
So it is not only immigration. Right at the time of immigration, it is also able to aid and help Canadian economy. In fact, I may go even further and say that many of the universities, they look forward to receiving international students because they support the running and operationalization of these academic institutions to a large extent. So therefore, students would be the first level of immigrants, new immigrants in most of the cases. And another one is professionals who already have gathered work experience in India or outside India, but are Indian nationals. They are taken into the provinces, and you very rightly said, through different channels. There are different channels of grant of visa. They come here, stay here. Some people would come initially at some work visa, then getting converted into PR. Some others will come directly on the PR, some express channel. So there are various channels open, and they they apply for that. If they qualify, they join in the workforce in Canada.
Sanjay, this is how I said when you put the numbers on the table. 425,000 students, $18 billion. I would tell everyone here, be good to the students, because these are the students who are going to be the future permanent residents or future citizens. $18 billion, so of course they have injected in the economy by through tuition fees and all that. However, we are missing out if at all they start working yet. So there's no brain drain. Assuming we are able to really be nice and have them provide them good jobs and all that. I mean, how much taxes are they going to contribute in the economy? So that's again from the Canadian perspective. Again, it looks like you were holding on a thought.
Yeah. So not only that, in fact, if you look at the potential benefit that Canada gets, in addition to the payment of tuition fees, their initial education was in India, which was on which the Indian taxpayers spent a lot of money.
Right.
So when they come out, I'll give you an example. Say at the Indian Institute of Technology, I studied in Delhi. So let me take an example of Delhi. When I studied there, I was paying 125 Indian rupees at the rate of 16.75 rupee to a US dollar as my tuition fee for a semester. And rest all was subsidized by my taxpayers.
Wow.
When I come out to do a master's degree in Canada, I have already used my taxpayers' money to subsidize my education and have acquired a certain skill set. I'm using that skill set to enrich Canadian economy and research and innovation system, not the Indian economy.
Absolutely.
So that is all. That is so. What I said, $18 billion, is a direct payment into the tuition fee system plus living expenses. But the cost of missed opportunity for India will be approximately the same value.
You got it.
So if I look at the cost to the country, as many corporate listeners would say, cost to the company, CTC. So if I look at the CTC cost to the country, I'm talking about close to $40 billion.
Absolutely. Makes sense. No, it would completely make sense. In fact, that's why I always say that students are the backbone of the future economies and how they are transitioning. Let's be nice to them because right now they really need help. And if communities come forward to really give them the support, the temples are really coming forward to really at least give them the base to connect with the community, find employers and all that. So of course, I'm closely connected to my local community here, and so is V4U Radio, all entire in Calgary and Toronto. Last time when we spoke, we talked about the 4 tiers, which is very important in any bilateral, which is starting from political, diplomatic, business, and people to people. When we talk about immigration, do you think it is fulfilling all the 4 tiers?
I think so. If you look at the conversation between two countries,
right,
what is the topmost on the mind of any political leader, any diplomat, any official is national interest. Is education and immigration a national interest? Yes, they are. If I am sound from the skill set points of view, if I'm sound from educational point of view, I have one front safeguarded on my national interest. Immigration, a bad immigration can damage the national interest of the country which is receiving the immigration.
Absolutely.
Good point. Immigration will strengthen the country. So therefore, immigration is very much a part of the overall national security dimension of the receiving country. Let's look at the sending country. If the sending country is not India, it's some other sending country which talks in terms of the brain drain, then its national security will be endangered by sending out the brains to other countries. So therefore, immigration has got both dimensions on the national security for the receiving country. Bad immigration is bad for national security. Similarly, a bad emigration is bad for the sending country. So therefore, on both aspects, immigration represents a very important sub-vertical of the overall national security of a country. See, earlier, whenever people used to talk about the national security, they would talk in geopolitical domain only. Today, it is geopolitics, it is defense, it is economy. Economic security is becoming more and more a general lingo when we discuss the national security. Let's look at intangible assets and security of them, our culture. That's a part of the national security. We don't want to lose our identity by losing our cultural assets. Same thing happens with, I'll bring it down to a very sort of understandable level, germoplasm. So if the mangoes that India produces goes to another country in the same form, it will impact my national interest in other geographies in the world. So you look at anything and you will find that somehow it is linked with the national security and national interest of the country, both receiving and sending. And I would dare say that immigration fits in that milieu very well.
V4U Radio presents Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam.
Very well said. And again, these are the things we want to really bring to the forum so that a common listener can take benefits and advantages of these conversations, because the more people see high-profile individuals who are representing both the sides, they certainly feel very close and at home in bringing the challenges. Challenges is एक और बात आती है कि whenever we are about to leave our home country, our comfort zone, of course, I mean, lots of eyes looking at it, immediate families, friends, and so on and so forth. And they look at the countries. Of course, Canada has that reputation of still a very, very warm, heartwarming country, and people know. Of course, there are some challenges, but पहली चीज़ हम पूछने जाते हैं, which I don't know if my listeners are aware. The resources, when they take on a flight, board on a flight from say New Delhi, Mumbai, and coming to Toronto, Vancouver, what are some of the resources that the CG offices or High Commission offices have for these new immigrants? I mean, I just want to know a little bit from you. What are the few resources that they can dip into? And if you maybe later on, I will share this information as well in a broader perspective. But first of all, today, if you can maybe briefly tell us something about that.
So the entire use of the national resources starts when they are still in India.
Right.
And what I would suggest to all the listeners and those who are connected to such students who are coming here, to push them to do a thorough research as to where are they going, why are they going, if the objectives will be met, what are the financial implications, what is the society they are getting into, what are the legal framework in that country. So try to understand where you are landing before you actually start the process of thinking of relocating to Canada. It's an English-speaking country. That's fine. We have a large number of people in the Indian diaspora here. That's fine again. The Canadians by nature are very welcoming people. That's fine again. But these are two different cultures. They are two different societies. And whenever there are two difference, whether it is society or culture, there will be ensuing issues which one will need to tackle with. And that one will have to prepare for before leaving the shores of India. So that is the first thing. How are we doing that? If you look at the social media platforms, including YouTube, you'll find a number of videos uploaded there by the students who came a couple of years back, telling the Indian target student group who wish to come to Canada for higher studies, telling them what were the difficulties they faced and how did they overcome them. Because no difficulty is paramount. Every difficulty can be surmounted. And these difficulties were surmounted by them. So they share their experience and knowledge with those who are yet to follow their path. So that's a very, very important factor to consider. As far as the Consulate Generals of India in Vancouver and Toronto are concerned, and the High Commission in Ottawa is concerned, we offer all kinds of consular services to our own nationals. And these consular services are sometimes advisory and most of the other times statutory. So passport related services, PCC related services, there is, if they grow their family here, birth certificate, if there is a mishap, death certificate, marriages to be conducted in accordance with the Special Marriage Act of India. So all these services are offered. Now what happens is that students would come here, new immigrants are an easy lot because they have already worked somewhere, they are more mature as compared to undergraduate students, and they are generally better prepared than the students themselves. Students who come, I have more concerns for them because they still come here at the age of 18 to 20. So they are young enough, they may not have faced much of trials and tribulations in India while growing up in the society. They had their parents to take care of them or other family members to take care of them. And all of a sudden they are in an ocean, not a swimming pool, in an ocean where they need to swim. So it is not an easy task for any 18 to 20-year-old. So when they come here, what we generally tell them is whichever city they are, to connect with the Indian associations there. And all smaller or larger Canadian cities have got a number of Indian associations there, and people like you yourself are associated with a couple of Indian associations in your city. So when they go there, they meet those who had come some years before them and learn from their experience. Now, these associations also tell them as to what are the laws they are expected to follow, what are the decorum they are required to follow, what are do's and don'ts in the society. And these become very important because, most of the Canadian friends, they look at India through the immigrants who have arrived here, through you. Whatever you talk about India, whatever you say about India, howsoever you behave in the society, to them, that is what India is. And therefore, it becomes very important both from our own image building process as to reflect truly what India is, as well as to let the Canadians understand from the perspective of those students or new immigrants as to what opportunities does India offer for them to get engaged. So therefore, the students are encouraged to do that. And what we generally tell to the associations, to tie up with the universities and colleges in their region, and the day on which orientation is being done for the newly arrived students, to see if the university will be comfortable them having a half-an-hour session for the Indian international students arriving in that particular university or the college. And during that orientation, the concerned Indian association or the group of Indian associations can share the phone number, can share the services they are offering, can share where to meet, etc. Now, when I move beyond these associations, then we have Hindu temples, we have gurudwaras, we have got some churches of Indian denomination, a few mosques as well. So all of them do offer great services to these students through their langar services where the students can come eat. And in fact, in my recent travels all over Canada, what I have found very encouraging is that many of the students who are unable to come to the temple or a gurudwara or a mosque or a church, their ration is delivered in their hostels. And that is such an encouraging thing. That, all right, if you are unable to come to us, we will come to you. And no strings attached. So therefore, firstly, I will give huge kudos to my diaspora associations and organizations in Canada who are going all out to help students in particular and new immigrants in general. So therefore, the living comfort part is taken care of by the associations. Sometimes we do introduce those who are unable to find an association in their region to the existing Indian associations there. We would largely offer the statutory services to the students and new immigrants, which we try to do with as much smoothness as possible in the delivery of such services. There is a helpline which is well advertised on all the websites. So in case of dire needs in case if there is an emergency. Any Indian immigrant who still are Indian citizens would be able to use those helplines and connect to us.
Very, very nicely said, and I'm so happy आपने कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें प्रमोट करी जो मैं चाहता था प्रमोट करना, जिस सोसाइटी कम्युनिटी में रहते हैं. तीन चीज़ मैं बताता हूँ जो आप, and just to paraphrase and to help people, my listeners understand. पहले तो helpline, very, very important, that people have to, if they're in dire needs, of course the helpline is there for all Indian citizens who are in Canada. दूसरी चीज़ communities, of course, इतना मैं communities connected नहीं था. मैं personally बताता हूँ, जब मैं इंडिया में था और जब यहाँ पे आया, so I found I'm connecting more to communities. Philanthropy बहुत ज़्यादा है यहाँ पे because they connect in a fun way. Weekends पे communities always have something really fun to offer, and strangers come together and become lifelong friends. And so this is second thing which I wanted to, आपने बंदरों की बात की, तो इसी ये मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ी अच्छी opportunity है for people who are listening in India or people who are listening from Toronto and Vancouver. Edmonton is a great place to settle down. We are small enough to care and large enough to do business. I always put it this way: we're one of the brightest cities out there, and we've got great organizations like temples, like Alberta Hindu Society of Alberta, या Bharati Cultural Society, and all that. So rightly said. Thank you so much, Sanjay ji, for mentioning these organizations, because we come forward. Now we know that historically, Canada has got the labor shortage historically, not and time and again, and of course India has got the fastest growing middle class population with a great education, skills, and language. Adaptability is one of the biggest one, where we call ourselves very adaptable.
V4U Radio presents Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam.
Now, so there is a clearly a demand and supply, and there is a demand and there is a supply, and which matches that demand in all aspects. How to optimize from because you are now also new to Canada, and I can put you there. You've been here for 2 years now. How can we optimize this relationship of demand and supply? Is there a quick formula? Is there how can we start these processes where we can optimize it?
See, generally speaking, if the labor market is well organized and well structured, which I believe it is in Canada, there will be a possibility to look in the future. So if there is a possibility of a study being conducted in the Canadian market to see how many engineers will be needed next year, how many doctors will be needed next year, how many nurses will be needed next year, how many drivers will be needed next year. And with those numbers, if our collaborators in Canada, and there are many of them, go back to the Indian human resources outlets, I think it will be a more orderly kind of an immigration, which both countries would like to do. Currently, we are discussing with the Government of Canada a mobility agreement, which will basically promote an orderly and legal immigration into Canada from India. And therefore, with estimated numbers, it will be much easier to go through a process of conducting selection in India and then bring those talents here. And I'm not counting the students here, because students are coming through a different process altogether. Students will be a workforce of tomorrow in Canada. So that I'm not counting. I'm just counting about the professionals who have gotten their experience in India and will now be able to work in Canada. You are talking about the labor shortage here. As someone who lives in Ottawa, I'll say, yeah, at times it is not as easy to get workers as it would be in India. But I'm sure there must be some structure through which the Canadian authorities are working in order to get the necessary services delivered to the people who would actually need them. Total number of members of the Indian diaspora is close to 3 million. So out of 40 million, you have 3 million owing their origin to India. This itself tells you a lot. And most of these migration or immigration into Canada which has taken place is due to pull factor and not due to push factor. Given to us, we will not like any Indian to leave the shores of India. But then there is a pull factor in Canada which gets them here. So that pull factor, till the time it continues, there will be a continued flow of talent from India to Canada. And once again, just to repeat, these flows do not hamper India's own economic growth and the scientific and technological growth. So therefore, we can afford to share this common good, if I may call it, with other friendly countries in the world, includes Canada.
Sanjay ji, you brought a very good point. The mobility agreement. We know that we're talking about immigration, folks who have just joined us. This is V4U Radio, and I've got our High Commissioner, Honorable Sanjay Verma ji, talking to us, and we are talking about immigration. And Sanjay ji, as you have mentioned about mobility agreement, I know that there is a backlog as well at the Canadian visa offices where the applications. With this mobility agreement, do you think there is a chance of any like it will be expedited, or do they engage the High Commission offices into some kind of a process to maybe screen? There must be screening processes, right? So do you think that is going to be impacted as well with this mobility agreement?
Yeah, so the first thing, let me clarify this to your audience, is that grant of visa is a sovereign function.
Right.
And therefore, grant of Canadian visa is completely a sovereign function of the Canadian government. They will regulate as required, I'm sure, as we do.
Right.
So the visa granting will be regulated by the authorities, and we will not like to interfere in that in any way.
Right.
Second aspect that you asked about, the smoothing of the visa process, again, that's a sovereign function of the Canadian High Commission and consulates in India, and they will take a call on that. So mobility agreement basically talks about a possible way of making the process more predictable, making the process more reasonable. And this is for every country. We have such mobility agreement with many other countries as well. In North America, with US, we have it. So that the illegal channel of immigration, and there is no secret that I'm telling you, there could be illegal immigration in a country which is so accepting immigrants. So those channels should be diminished or completely taken out of the rubric. So orderly, and it should be orderly, so that you don't get everyone in a very short span of time and then it's all quiet. So it should be orderly. It should be according to your labor market. We will hate to sort of dampen any particular labor sector in Canada. So all these are functions of sovereign nature of the Canadian government, and we will respect whatever decision, whichever way it wants to go. But at the same time, while collaborating with our Canadian colleagues here, Canadian counterparts, we always make sure that as far as possible, we are able to give the visa seekers both ways, Indian authorities to the Canadian visa seekers, and hopefully the Canadian authorities to Indian visa seekers, a better experience in applying for and once granted obtaining the visa.
संजय जी brought a very very good point. मेरे ख्याल से इमिग्रेशन का टॉपिक तो ऐसा है कि I don't think so I will be able to finish in one episode. If you allow me to ask one more question and also grant me some access that हम इस टॉपिक को अपने दूसरे शो में भी कंटिन्यू कर सकें, so that I have got lots of questions, and again, believe you me, this is something which is very very exciting as we are preparing for a growth. When I came to the country, it was 32 million population to a population which is touching 40 or crossed 40. But you brought a very good point. And hot truth is that with the goods, the bads also get a chance to enter. With some legal, some illegal things also just percolate, right? And let's not forget that Canada shares the boundary with a country which is 11 times its size. So there is always 11 times the opportunity, and we know there are lots going to happen that as well. But anyways, आज आप आए, आपने हमसे इमिग्रेशन पे इतनी खुल के बात करी. I really thank you for giving this opportunity to our listeners, because we are just also drumming up and creating a new way to connect with the audience. Not we call this as a digital media, which is becoming very powerful these days. So jate jate, I want to give it back to you maybe, and I'll bring you back in my second episode, if you in my third, in fact, talking again, continuing it on the immigration. Back to you, Sanjay ji, if you want to maybe end this episode by saying something.
Yes, so when I was giving you the number of the Indian diaspora here, let me just accentuate it by providing you some more details. So at the moment, whatever statistics and data we have our hands on, shows that there are about 1.8 million Canadian citizens of Indian origin. There are about 1.06 million Indian nationals holding PRs, permanent residency. And there are about 427,000 Indian nationals who are international students here. So when I club all these things together, this comes very close to 3 million individuals in this country. And these individuals are assisting the Canadian ecosystem, all domains, to see a better strengthening in their own domains. So that's very important. So immigration is extremely important. I can also want to share with your listeners and audience that certification is known as MRA, Mutual Recognition Agreements. So certificates which are issued in India to be equally valid in Canada, and Canadian certificates to be equally valid in India. That is something where the two governments have started working and will continue working in that direction. Some of the universities have already started discussions on dual degrees and transfer of credit. Some other universities have already started discussions on giving 1 or 2 years for the Canadian students in their university to go to India and study in a partner university, and similarly in the reverse direction. So all these will certainly improve the knowledge, improve the understanding of each other's culture, country and society, and that will augur very well for the future of our bilateral relationship. I hope your audience...
मैं आपसे ये एपिसोड यहाँ पे अंत करता हूँ, लेकिन मैं प्रॉमिस करता हूँ अपने व्यूअर्स को मैं कि यहीं से कंटिन्यू करूँगा, क्योंकि मेरे पास, जैसे बताया, मेरे पास बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं, एंड आई थिंक यू जस्ट स्टार्टेड talking about, it's a good segue to start my next episode on immigration, but on the same things about how what is the readiness. आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, थैंक यू. मैं अभी ये आज का शो यहीं समाप्त करता हूँ, एंड देन वी विल ब्रिंग यू बैक इन आवर थर्ड एपिसोड on the same topic, immigration.
Thank you very much, Anupam ji, and all the best to your listeners and audience. And we hope to remain connected, and I'll keep sharing with you the developments on the India-Canada corridor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
V4U Radio presents Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, a compelling series of Samvaad.
V4U Radio, kabhi bhi, kahin